the Minnesota Vikings have had it pretty rough. A more rational fan of the team may call it bad luck, with some poor management at times, while others will just flat out say it. This team is cursed.
Touchdown! No! No!
Let me give you a bit of a historical timeline. From 1969 to 1976, a span of 8 years, the Vikings reached 4 Super Bowls, but failed to win a single one. During the 1975 playoffs in the divisional round, they lost due to a Hail Mary. Vikings fans were furious that a push-off wasn't called on wide receiver Drew Pearson. In fact, fans began throwing stuff on the field, just like Bottlegate, and one fan actually hit a ref in the head with a whiskey bottle, knocking him unconscious.
Now, the official got hit right in the head. Oh boy. The official got hit right in the head by something out there. Boy. And he's down.
Fast forward to 1998. The Vikings were the best team by far in the NFL, finishing the regular season 15-1 with one of the most dominant offenses in NFL history. But in the NFC Championship, their kicker, who hadn't missed a kick in 2 years, missed, and they went on to lose. In 2001, the team found themselves back in the NFC Championship. Even though they were favored in that game, they got blown out 41-0. The Vikings would fall off the map for the next 2 seasons. This brings us to 2003. This was a pivotal year in the franchise's history, one that diehard fans will never forget. I'm gonna lay out what exactly happened during that season, but first, today's video is sponsored by SeatGeek.
Live events are back, and with football season looming, it's almost time to get back out there and watch your favorite teams. But whether it's football, basketball, concerts, or other events, SeatGeek puts tickets from all across the web into one area, making buying simple. SeatGeek rates each ticket on a scale from 0 to 10 to make sure that you're getting a good deal. And lastly, first-time users can use my promo code KTO at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app.
Entering the 2003 season, the media didn't have huge expectations for the Vikings. Coming off the previous season where the Packers dominated the NFC North, most experts picked them again to win the division in 2003. In fact, very few picked Minnesota to win, and nobody had them becoming NFC champions. This take by Dan Schneider back in 2003 can give some context. Quote, "Mike Tice is a bad coach. Forget their 3-game winning streak last year to crest at 6-10. This year, they hit rock bottom." Also, Minnesota was the story of that year's draft, as they forgot to make their pick twice. So yeah, outside of Minnesota, there wasn't a whole lot of believers in this team. However, despite these opinions and what had happened in the past, they picked up right where they left off in 2002.
5 to the end zone, intercepted for the 3rd time in this first half.
They started the season 3-0, all versus division opponents. Pro Bowl quarterback Dante Culpepper had played well, but he got injured in week 3 and ended up missing the next 2 games. Even with this injury, however, the team didn't miss a beat with backup quarterback Gus Frerotte, as they put up an average of 37 points in weeks 4 and 5. Entering their bye week, Minnesota was arguably the best offense in football. They were reminiscent of that dominant 1998 team. Going into week 7, the team was getting back Dante Culpepper, which was great timing as they were about to take on the 5-1 Denver Broncos. This was the game of the week in the NFL. The Vikings were undefeated, and the Broncos would have been as well if it weren't for this man.
Backing up to the 8-yard line. Dancing. Middlebrooks can't get him. Now he's back inside the 5, but finds a seam.
So anyway, back to Minneapolis. This game was neck and neck in the first half. In the winding seconds before halftime, Minnesota had the ball at their own 40-yard line. Then, this happened.
In this football team this year. Culpepper, with time running out here in the first half. All kinds of time, going to throw it deep for Moss. Pulls it out at the 10-yard line. Flips it over his head. This is a touchdown.
Truly, This is one of the greatest plays you'll ever see. You just don't see things like this happen very often at all. The Vikings went into halftime with all the momentum, and they went on to win 28-20. These guys now looked like the team to beat in the NFC. They had the best receiver, if not player in the NFL with Randy Moss, and their offense overall seemed unstoppable. Also in their division, the mighty Packers had gotten off to a disappointing 3-4 start. So it was all smiles in Minnesota. But in Week 9, things came back down to reality. The Kerry Collins-led Giants handed the Vikings their first L of 2003. The Giants hadn't been very good that year, which made this loss concerning. But hey, you can't win every game, right? When you get hit with that first loss, the following few games can tell a lot about your team's ability to bounce back. They can often make or break a team, and this seemed to break the Vikings.
Looking end zone, Gates, touchdown.
By week 12, the Vikings had unraveled to 6-4. They had turned the ball over 6 times versus the Raiders, and in the division, they now only led the Packers by 1 game. This team barely resembled what they looked like just 4 weeks prior. Following their 4-game losing streak, the next 4 weeks would be an up-and-down roller coaster. They won, got crushed the following week, then won again, which led to a pivotal matchup versus the Chicago Bears that came down to the wire. Down 3 with a minute left, Dante Culpepper threw a jump ball over to the best jump ball player in the history of the game, and shockingly, Randy Moss got mossed.
It's Moss against Tillman. The ball is there for either one of them to take it. Tillman gets it.
Now, let's take a look at the NFC North standings going into the final 2 games. The Vikings and Packers both possessed an 8-6 record, but luckily for the Vikings, they held the tiebreaker, so things still looked good for them to be able to salvage this season and make the playoffs. Both teams went on to win in Week 16, which set up for quite the stage entering Week 17. The only way the Packers can make it into the playoffs is if they win and the Vikings lose. Luckily for Minnesota, they were playing the lowly Arizona Cardinals. This wasn't your Kyler Murray or Kurt Warner Cardinals. This was washed up Emmitt Smith, dead last on both sides of the ball, and on a 7-game losing streak Cardinals. Even though the Vikings had spiraled in the second half of the season, this seemed like a favorable matchup for them. And once the game got going, everything looked like it was headed in their direction. The Vikings nailed a 46-yard field goal with just under 7 minutes to play to take a 17-6 lead. The 2-minute warning came and went, and the Cardinals were able to score, but it seemed too little too late. The fate of this game now rested on an onside kick.
Are Ed Gorin and David Hill. The onside kick.
They got it.
And the
They got
Cardinals
the
have
kick.
it. No timeouts for the Cardinals. McCown. The ball is loose. Lance Johnstone applying the heat. The Cardinals got it back. On 4th down.
They got to hurry up and run a play.
They don't have time to spike it.
Come on, Josh. Hurry up. If you're going to run a play, you got to run it.
Here it is. The season's on the line. 2 receivers left and right. McCown takes the snap. He steps up. He's all by himself. Fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No! The Cardinals have knocked the Vikings out of the playoffs.
That day in Arizona will never be forgotten. The football gods were cruel that day. The Vikings were on the wrong side of fate yet again. Crazy enough, the Cardinals weren't exactly on the winning side either. This win caused them to lose the number 1 overall pick, which was now possessed by the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers would select Eli Manning, who was then traded to New York after Eli said that he wouldn't play for them. 7 years later, the Giants had taken home 2 more Super Bowls. The Chargers, Cardinals, and Vikings still had 0. This had me thinking, what if the Cardinals failed to score that amazing touchdown? they probably would have drafted Eli Manning. Maybe he would have said no to them as well, but really, who knows? It's just mind-blowing how one game can change everything.